Hi everyone, it's Liz, the Frugal Libertarian, and I wanted to talk a little bit about something that came out over the weekend, which I find slightly hilarious. Last week in Trump's press conference, there was quite a few times where journalists from different publications spoke up and said, can I ask you this, and Trump would kind of either shoot them down or be like, okay, I get what you're saying, sit down, I'll answer you. And a lot of journalists came out and said that they were offended by that treatment, that kind of thing. So last week, the end of the week, Ed Henry was substituting for Tucker Carlson. I'm not the biggest fan of Ed Henry. I don't think he lets the guests talk and kind of dig their own grave as much as Tucker does, because Tucker really does that. He kind of lets people just talk and talk and talk until they've said something they can't dig themselves out of. And I very much enjoy that. And people on both sides, it seems to be. He seems to be equally hostile to many different sides of the conversation. But Ed Henry had on two journalists who had been at the press conference, literally like the same day, like later that day. And he asked them, what did you think about the way you were treated? And both of them said that they didn't have any bad feelings towards Trump. The woman who was from NPR even commented that his activity and his actions and the way he was speaking in the press conference actually raised her opinion of him. And, did she feel like she was being treated unfairly? Did she feel like she was getting hostile treatment? Did she feel like the First Amendment was under attack? And she said, no, not at all. That's not how it felt when I was there. I was fine with it. Well, it's what happened with the other journalist that kind of spurred everybody into action. On his behalf, I should say. You see, the other journalist who was being interviewed by Ed Henry is a Jewish journalist who writes for an Orthodox news, I believe it's a magazine. And I'm sorry, I just find this hilarious. Basically, the New York Times put out over the weekend something on their website, a post on their website, where they basically went off on how Trump is so anti-Semitic because he treated this Jewish reporter terribly, and that is unbelievable proof. That is all the proof we need that Trump is an anti-Semite. The thing is, they never bothered to interview the journalist. However, Ed Henry had. And that interview had already happened. So it was already out in the world disproving what they were saying, because that journalist says, not only was I not offended by how I was treated, I was the person in charge of covering Trump throughout the entire election process, from primary into general election, in through the presidency. That's why he was there in the press conference. He said, I've been following him for basically 2 years. And he said, he's like, I'm not just, and, Ed Henry, of course, is saying, so you don't believe he's an anti-Semite. And the man says, well, no, it's not that I don't believe he's not. It's that I've seen him interact in the Orthodox community. I've seen him reach out to the Jewish community. I've watched him not be an anti-Semite. So I know he's not. Basically, to me, the New York Times either literally could not be bothered to talk to that reporter himself. They just wanted to speak for him. They were outraged on his behalf. But either they did reach out to him and he didn't say things they liked, so they ignored it, or they just failed to talk to him at all. And then, on top of it, this interview is out there in the universe. I will put a link to it down in the comments, in case you want to watch it. You want to see what the guy actually thought for himself. But basically that's out in the ether of the internet, and they couldn't be bothered to look into it. The other half of this that's been being thumbed around is that Trump's behavior towards the press is anti-First Amendment. That his hostility towards the press is anti-free speech. No, it's not. Is he shutting down the press? Is he threatening journalists, if you print X, you're going to prison? Is he fining journalists for writing things he doesn't like? Has he penned an executive order to reignite the Anti-Sedition Act? I'm talking 1918. I'm not even talking the one with John Adams. I'm talking about 1918. Did he even, is that even an option yet? No. Basically, there were 8 years of the Obama administration being so chummy with most of the mainstream media that Obama actually the administration actively fed the media pictures of him. They had a staff photographer with him all the time to stage these photographs of him that looked all nice and impressive, and then they would feed them to the media they liked, who would then use them and sort of take credit for it, like, oh, look at this gorgeous picture of Obama that we got. And no, they didn't take them. They were not candid pictures. These were pictures completely and totally staged by a photographer. So you had 8 years of this super, super chummy interaction between the president and the majority of the mainstream media. Now you have a president who actively dislikes the mainstream media. He actively talks to the mainstream media, talks down at the mainstream media, and tells them he doesn't like them. And they consider that an attack on the First Amendment? No, it's not. It's not. If you were to put in another Anti-Sedition Act, yeah, that would be. So the whole thing, to me, it was just like all of this going on all at once. There's the whole thing about him over the weekend as well. Oh, he claimed there was a terrorist attack in Sweden the night before. But he never said that. He said what happened, look at what happened in Sweden, even, oh, last night. And then he kept going off, saying all these little tiny halting half sentences. And then when, Germany, France, all these other places. The problem was he never said anything about there was a terrorist attack last night in Sweden and this is what happened, but that's what the media interpreted and the public jumped on. And he publicly, repeatedly said, no, that wasn't what I was talking about. I was talking about a Tucker Carlson interview and a documentary that's coming out that's about crime in Sweden. That's what I was talking about. But nonetheless, people are still jumping on it and continuing to jump on it and scream bloody murder about how he made up a terrorist attack. He made up a terrorist attack. He never once said anything about a terrorist attack in Sweden. He didn't. He was saying crime, Europe, Sweden, and then last night in Germany, and it was these halting half sentences. So basically anything people inferred into it, that's exactly what it was. It wasn't being taken at face value. It was being taken with all these little hints and he, what he said quotes and then ... they're what they thought it should have ended with, or they thought he was alluding to an ending to the sentence, and it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And then you have, oh God, greatest Twitter ever, and I don't know, I don't remember who actually said this, but Chelsea Clinton said something about you're inventing a terrorist attack for your own political gains is a terrible thing to do. Like that kind of thing on Twitter. So somebody else responded, yeah, I know. Thank God you made it out of Bosnia alive, huh? Because seriously, one side throws a stone, I love to see the other side throw it back, because really, that's funny. But yes, so that happened this weekend. Some of it funny, some of it disturbingly funny. Funny in a disturbing way. Anyway, I hope you're having an awesome week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.